Guys, Arwen here. So today I want to talk to you all about dark patterns. I want to talk to you about psychological manipulation. I want to talk about people controlling you, people forming sort of like toxic cords to you to try to make you like do certain things because, you know, they have for whatever reason made you their source. So this is something that came up today. I wanted to discuss it with you. I have permission to discuss it. So the person that I was talking to today, she has been thinking about getting a divorce, and we talked about the patterns between her and her husband and how they were manipulating and they were controlling, and how she was basically like giving away her power in order to continue to receive what she thought that she needed to receive. So when I say dark patterns, what I mean by that are patterns that are not very visible to the eye, right? So this person, the husband, was being very controlling. He would get drunk a lot. He would yell at her. All of these things are all like abusive patterns. And he was doing that in order to keep her in a certain place. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is because if you have these sort of patterns like going on in your life where you feel like you are in a prison or you feel like you're controlled in some way, by looking at the pattern, it is going to energetically release it, and it's going to make it a whole lot easier in order to like see it and choose something different. So we all have patterns going on in our life that are not up to par, that we don't like, that don't meet our standards, etc. So if you feel like you're in some sort of pattern where somebody is abusive and they are controlling, you know, looking at the thing that you don't want to see, even though it is hard, is going to help you like emotionally unhook from it, emotionally release from it, and not feel like you are powerless and you can't move through it. So the pattern that we went in today that I ended up pointing out was that it was this person was wanting to have power over her so that she would keep providing the money, right? So what the husband was receiving through the manipulation and the control was the money, right? So this way, like, she had plenty of money, lots of resources, a lot more than he did. So what was happening there was that was something that he wanted, and so he made her his source, okay? So when somebody is making you their source, it will feel very bad, right? It will feel like, you'll feel like you're in a prison. You'll feel like you have to change yourself in order to accommodate that person. You will feel like you need to change your habits, your behaviors, or you need to walk on eggshells in order to accommodate that person. Like, you'll just basically feel like you really need to change yourself in order to not set them off, or in order to not make them yell at you, or in order to not make them start tearing you down or calling you names or doing like whatever the abusive things that they are doing. So all of these patterns here are abuse, and that is not something that you need to stand for. So when you choose to step back in your power, see the truth, which is that no, this person does not have command and control over me, like I am getting to choose, and you step into your power and you refuse to allow it again, then everything can start to shift and change. So when you're in this pattern, you can feel very helpless and powerless, and I know this because I used to be in these sort of patterns. My mother was a psychological manipulator to like the nth degree. She had a borderline personality disorder. Like, she was a delight. But just because someone is exhibiting these like patterns and things doesn't mean that you need to be held captive to them, right? So when I was younger and I had to go through these things and I had to release my mother, like I stopped talking to my mother when I was 25. It was a choice that I made because that felt like solid and good to me. That's what I needed to do for my mental health. I made a decision that I wasn't willing to be psychologically manipulated anymore. I wasn't willing to be controlled. I wasn't willing to be taken advantage of, and I definitely wasn't willing to let somebody else dictate what I could have in my life and what like I got to receive. And so I made a new choice. I was like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not dealing with people that have these sort of patterns. I'm not dealing with people that are messed up. Like, I'm just not going to do it, and I'm not going there. And I like drew a line in the sand. I cut cords and I let go of them. Specifically with my mother, I had to let go of like the guilt cord, you know what I mean? Because that was the major thing. As soon as I let go of that guilt cord, it was like I was totally able to release from her completely. So, from a shamanic perspective, when I am looking at the energy that's going on between somebody who is being kind of feels like they're imprisoned and they're being psychologically manipulated and controlled by another person, a lot of times what that'll look to me is like a fragment of that person's self has like fragmented off. And a lot of times I'll see like black smoke kind of around there. And black smoke to me, because when I see things in my clairvoyant, in my mind, it's like a hologram of the pattern. And so like the black smoke to me represents like an aspect of self that's fragmented out, because whenever you go into the black smoke and you go to the other side, usually you'll find, not always, but sometimes you'll find an aspect of self there, and it'll be a younger version of you. So that version of you would need to be enfolded back in. So what I have noticed in doing my work is when someone feels this sort of like powerlessness, or like I can't do this, or I'll never be able to achieve that, and it feels so far away, it's usually generally a childhood piece. Because as a child, a lot of times you feel like you can't reach something, or you can't get there, and it feels hard for you, and it's because you're having the perspective of the child in some way. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to say that. What else did I want to say? Oh, you can just very easily energetically enfold these aspects of self back into your body. Like, it's not a hard thing, and it doesn't need to take a long time. And the more aspects of self you bring back, the more solid and grounded you feel. Shamanism would call this soul retrieval, right? So I did not have a name for this for the longest time. I was like, fragments, aspects of self, fragmented out. That made perfect sense to me. Like, that's what I called it, because that's what I was looking at when I was doing the energy work. And then later I started reading all these shaman books, and I was like, oh, there's a word for that. That's great. I had no idea. It was just like what was coming up in session. So when you have integrated and cleared and grounded these aspects in yourself, you no longer feel fear or terror or powerless against these like quote unquote people that may be trying to like, psychologically manipulate or trying to like get things from you. Okay, so yeah, when these aspects of self are fragmented out, you'll feel 1,000 times better. So I know, like, over the years I have integrated so many aspects of myself, and like all the previous sort of psychological responses that I used to have to my mother, I no longer have those responses, because I've already integrated that aspect of self back inside of me. I've already grounded her, and I already feel solid. So now in dealing with anybody that has like psychological patterns where they're like slightly messed up, I'm just like, no, absolutely not. Like, I have no time for that. And you get to embody the energy of, I am not available for that, right? It doesn't need to be a trigger. It doesn't need to be difficult. It doesn't need to be hard. It doesn't need to be this thing that's like this big like to do. When you feel solid in yourself, it is extremely easy to have good boundaries with other people, and extremely easy to no, I end right here and you begin over there, and you don't let people manipulate you or try to do things to pull energy from you. So if you've listened to this whole video, there must have been something you needed to hear in it. And if you are really, really honest with yourself and you ask yourself, okay, well, where am I being manipulated? Where are people taking advantage of me? And, what is their agenda? Like, why am I letting this happen? What am I in denial about? And you kind of just feel and notice into that. It'll be a lot easier to unhook from those patterns and just be like, no, absolutely not. Like, we're not doing this. So you can literally energetically cut cords. I like to use string and scissors, and I will take the string and I'll string it to the other side, and I'll just go and I'll just click it, right? Clear it. And that is my way of cutting cords. So sometimes you might need to cut cords multiple times from people, but you do whatever you feel like you need to do, and whatever is intuitively that you feel within yourself needs to happen. Okay? All right, guys. Yeah, that's a little more darker than what I usually want to talk about, but it's what came up to me that I needed to do a live about. So anyways, I hope this helped you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.